Alrighty. Hello everyone. So this is going to be our very first class in the Java Foundations course. The primary scope of this course is to kind of build a stable base in Java such that you can program, kind of basic pieces of code while being pretty comfortable with a lot of the different syntaxes that you might commonly use in Java. So as people start to trickle in, I'm going to go ahead and explain kind of the syllabus of this class. So one of the tools I really like to use in order for kind of proof of concept, that kind of stuff, is a website called CodingBat. So every single time we kind of learn a certain concept, CodingBat will have sort of a kind of like a check for you to just go over some of its questions. So if you guys want to see what that looks like, I can go ahead and show you guys. Alright, so this is CodingBat, and you can see there's two tabs you can kind of have here. You have Java and you have Python. So for now we'll be sticking with Java, and you can see they have quite a number of problems here. So if I were to log in here, you can kind of see, you click into these sections, there's a lot of different problems for you to kind of check your knowledge base with what we've kind of learned in class. So if you're to look at some of the more basic problems, you can see that they aren't too long pieces of code, and then you can go into some of the more difficult problems, and you can see that the pieces of code start getting a little bit more complicated. By the end of this class, you should be fairly comfortable with pretty much every single topic you see inside here. And yes, that does mean covering some of the APCS problems. APCS, the material does not in fact go too deep, so it should not be too much of a particular challenge. So we can go back to our IDE. So this is going to be the JGrasp IDE, which is the one that I used before. If you have an IDE like this previously installed, then I suggest you to go ahead and change to the new one, which is NetBeans. So NetBeans, which I will show right here, is going to be the IDE that we're going to be primarily using for this entire class. Of course, the exception being when we go ahead and we program in CodingBat. So I will go ahead and I'll go through the setup of NetBeans. So obviously, since it is going to be our main IDE, we should be able to understand how to set everything up here, and that all starts with being able to install Java from its base, right? So first thing we want to do is go ahead and you want to go ahead and just download Java, right? Because you want Java as a language on your computer, right? Well, if I were to just go ahead and search Java download, right? I'm using Windows. You'll see a lot of, these things pop up, so you're going to want to click on that. And you'll notice, it's not too professional of a website, but this is going to be the Java website. It is run by Oracle, which is kind of the company that's bought the company that wrote Java. I won't go into too much detail there. And once you guys are on this page, I can go ahead and move on. I'll give you guys about 30 seconds to get here. Once again, all you just search up is Java download, and then whatever software you're on. Let me go ahead and switch our screen actually. Alright. So about 30 seconds. Alright. So hopefully you guys are at this page. So you are going to want to download, agree setup, and then you go ahead and you'll find the setup, and it will have, you know, your kind of Java setup stuff. And then I already have this version of Java installed, so I'm not going to press install, but you're going to want to press install and follow the different steps that they have. If you have any trouble with this, make sure that you you either follow the Oracle tutorial on this, but there isn't really too much. Here is your installation instructions. So essentially it's just right down here, and it'll pretty much tell you everything that you need to know. So this shouldn't take too long, right? And that's kind of the very first step when you want to go ahead and start programming in Java. The second step is downloading something called JDK. JDK stands for Java Development Kits. So you'll see right over here. So Java SE, and then this is on the official Oracle. So you can go ahead and just download your JDK download here. All you have to search is JDK download for Windows. So I will give you guys about 30 seconds to catch up to this step, and then we can go ahead and move on. Give me a second so I can go ahead and see if anyone has any questions. Alright, so you said that you think you already have Java installed onto your computer, and you want to check if you already have it installed. So there's a couple things you can do. First of all, when we go ahead and we download the IDE, you can go ahead and check it. Another way you can do this is I can teach you how to go through your program files and see if you have it downloaded. So you're going to want to open up File Explorer, and you'll have this kind of thing pop up here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the local disk. You're going to want to go through all these folders. So you'll notice that I have some of these kind of translucent folders. These are called hidden folders, and if you want to go ahead and access them, I believe a quick Google should do it. I think all you need to do is show hidden files in Windows 10, and you'll be able to find a bunch of guides on it. It takes like 10 seconds to probably do. So you're going to want to go into users, whichever user you normally use. In my case, I use Matthew, and you'll see all of these folders right here. You're going to want to go to your folder called App Data. In App Data, you have these 3 different folders you'll see over here. So you're going to want to go into roaming. So once you're in roaming, you can kind of see all of your applications. Now you'll see, so for things like Python, Python itself creates kind of like an IDE, whereas Java as a language does not. If you have used Java before, you should have some sort of IDE installed on here. So in my case, I've installed NetBeans, which you can see the folder right over here. You are going to need to remember the name of the IDE that you used. In my case, I know that mine is NetBeans. If at this point you still do not know if you have Java installed or not, what I suggest you do is you just go ahead and reinstall Java. It doesn't really change anything, and it will still use the default locations, so there should not be much of a problem with that. So with that, I can go ahead and read if anyone has any questions. So I see that you say you have JGrasp on your computer, and that does in fact mean that you do probably have Java installed. JGrasp is a common IDE that people like to use for Java. And JGrasp, which is actually the IDE I'm showing right now, you can also use other languages, but obviously it has J in it, which I believe stands for Java, because you can see that Java is the main language, along with all these over here. So hopefully you are able to go ahead and install everything all the way up to this step. So you want to go ahead and you want to download your JDK. Again, if you have JGraphs, you most likely already have JDK downloaded. You're just going to want to press on this. You'll see all of these files over here. Now, do not get confused with, Linux and all this kind of stuff. You are going to be using Windows and Windows only. And you're going to want to choose the exe file because that means that it is the executable file. So once you click on that, you want to accept the terms, and it will go ahead and run the installation steps for you. Once again, you just need to follow the steps. It will download everything into the right place, and you should not have any troubles with, however, whatever steps you need to follow, because if you don't really know where else you want to put it, the default location is perfectly fine. Now that you've gone ahead and installed Java, what you can do at this moment, if you do not have another IDE installed, is you can go into command line and you can run certain lines of code if you have it stored in some sort of notepad file or something like that. But you don't actually have any formal interface for you to actually program Java on. Now, this is where an IDE comes in. So an IDE stands for Integrative Development Environment. And you're like, all right, well, that's a very, very, interesting name, right? What does this mean? Well, essentially what this means is you want to go ahead and you want to program in your language, right? In our case, we want to program in Java. Well, when we program in Java, we have to have some sort of way to, access the language and write the code in that language. What an IDE does is it essentially creates an environment for you to program in Java, and sometimes it will have cool kind of tools that can help you in your programming that make it easier for you to, program certain things, right? Like, it will fix some of your spelling errors. It can go ahead and highlight different parts of your program that are syntaxically incorrect, or it can highlight, redundancies, all that kind of stuff, right? Just kind of small things, but overall an IDE serves just as something for you to run your Java program. Once again, we are going to be using NetBeans. NetBeans, you just Google NetBeans here, and you'll be able to click on the download, and you see all these things. You just want to download the most recent. Right over here, once again, you see a lot of different files here. Don't get confused. Look through the names of the files and see which one fits your computer. Windows is for your Windows. Most of you probably don't have Linux, and Mac is for Apple computers. You want to click on your Windows, and once again, it leads you to all of these download websites. All of these are the same thing from different websites. Once again, you want to make sure that's an exe, so in this case this one is an exe, so we can go ahead and open this one up, and it will go ahead and start the download for us. So this download will probably take about 5 minutes. Once again, this is just installing it into this folder place. So once again, it will default install inside this path right here, right? If you have everything installed in your default place, then it should have no problem finding where JDK is, where Java is installed, and everything should run smoothly. So once we've completed that step, we can go ahead and move on to the next step. So I'll go ahead and look for any questions. So I see Andrew Wang, you ask, you have 16.0.2. The installation of Java really does not matter. I can go ahead and check for you if 16.0.2 is a good enough version. So So do you have it? Oh yes, you have 16.0.2 JDK. That is going to be the most recent JDK that there is. So obviously it is one that you're going to be good with working with. Alright, so if no one has any questions, I can wait for you guys to download all your files. That should take a moment. And once these files have all kind of been downloaded, I can go ahead and go through the procedure of seeing whether or not you installed everything correct. And if you didn't, there's just a couple things that you can kind of go through again to see if you kind of have any problems that you need to work through again. So hopefully you guys kind of have it installed by now. It shouldn't take too much longer than this, so I'm gonna go ahead and start kind of moving through the steps. Alright, so if you finally downloaded NetBeans, so first thing you're going to want to do is search for your NetBeans application. So it's going to be titled Apache NetBeans IDE. So once again, you can just search up NetBeans and you can go ahead and click on that, and it will go ahead and boot up the IDE. NetBeans is a fairly developed IDE, meaning that there have been people who've put a lot of effort into designing this IDE, so it has a lot more features than other IDEs, namely JGrasp. JGrasp is a low-end IDE, so it doesn't have many of the features that can help beginner kind of programmers. So this is just the regular box. You can just click whatever you want. So you can see I kind of have already this project kind of storage. So one thing that you guys really need to understand is with all these kind of project stuff, packages, all of this just means a folder, right? And you're like, oh, well, why did they go ahead and rename it as packages, as projects? Well, the reason is because there's different types of folders. But if you were to go ahead and navigate through the actual file system, they will just be regular folders. This is simply for you to really understand your code better than before. That's all it really comes down to. So hopefully, that would clear up any questions you guys have. So first thing you're going to want to do is create a new project. A project is your workspace. This workspace is going to be kind of like a folder where all of your files are going to be stored under. And that means that these files are kind of grouped together in a way that you can access them. You can access a different file from that same file as long as it's within the same project. And probably within this course you will stick with one project, as there's no real reason to create new ones. And as you go ahead and you click new project, you'll see you have all these kind of options here. You have 3 different Javas. We are going to be sticking with Maven, and if you're wondering what in the world Maven is, it's essentially a kind of not really a version of Java, but a way for you to install other packages to easily be able to communicate with the other packages, so you can easily access the contents of them. And you're like, oh, well, what's with all these packages, right? Well, packages are kind of like pre-written pieces of code that other people have written for you. There's professional packages, like when we go ahead and downloaded JDK right here. JDK includes a lot of packages that the developers wrote, things like print, very basic pieces of code that otherwise you would need to rewrite, and it would be a pain in the butt to go ahead and rewrite all those base functions. Instead, they went ahead and packaged it all up for you and installed everything such that you can easily access it. So hopefully we've kind of gone over that. So now we're going to want to just click on Java application. There's, nothing else really pertains to us. So we can go ahead and click next. So in this, we can kind of call this like Java Foundations. It's a good habit to not put spaces inside your folder names, as it's just proprietary when you deal with computers, as spaces is kind of weird. Everything else you don't have to change unless you're really unhappy with it. In this case, you can see this is the path here, and if I were to go ahead and check in File Explorer, I could go to here. I believe it's stored in NetBeans. Actually, let me check. No, it's stored in Documents, and then it's stored in NetBeans projects. And you'll see these are the previous projects I've created. And once we go back to our IDE, so it really doesn't matter unless you have a specific place you want to put it. And once you've done that, you can go ahead and click finish, and then all these new files will pop up. So I'll go ahead and wait for you guys at this step, see if you guys have any questions. So it seems like you guys don't have any questions at the moment. So hopefully you guys have gone over and created this yourself, and now we are going to begin kind of our very first code writing in this class, right? So first thing you'll want to do is understand what exactly is going on here, right? Well, at the moment you guys don't really need to understand what dependencies and what these are. So essentially what these mean is where all these packages are stored. You can see under Java dependencies, you already have JDK here, right? And if you don't, that means that JDK was not installed in the right place or something like that. And I can go ahead and answer any questions you might have on that front. Andrew, have you followed all the steps of creating the new project? If not, I can go ahead and run through the steps one more time. This is a very, very important step because, okay, that's good. Because every single time you're going to want to write a new project, you're going to have to follow through these steps. And even after I was programming for probably over a year, I had no clue projects existed. And as a result, my code organization was quite messy. So hopefully you're able to reach this step here. So we're not going to need these two projects, so keep it as clean as possible. And now we can go ahead and go to our source packages. So you'll notice, I don't know if I can open that. Yeah, I don't think I can open it. So you'll see there's a kind of there's this fancy name, right? What exactly does this mean? com.mycompany.model, com.mycompany.java foundations. It doesn't really mean much. It's just a file name, or folder name rather. And once you've created this folder, you can now go ahead and create your very first Java class. So what you're going to do is you're going to right click on this under source packages. You're going to click new, and you're going to click Java class. Java class, we're going to call this, test class, right? Just to see if you have everything working. Everything else can remain the exact same. There's no reason to change it. So you can go ahead and press finish on that. And this is all the stuff that will pop up the very first time you create your class. So if you have any questions up to this point, feel free to ask them. If not, I'm going to wait here for a second for you guys to kind of catch up and ask any questions if you have any. Alright, it does not look like anyone has any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and move on now. So now that we've gone ahead and we've been able to create our first file, one thing that you'll notice, and you know, this is blue, and this is also blue, right? Why is this blue? Why is this black? Why is this gray? Alright, well, this is why an IDE is so helpful. If I were to go ahead and come over to JGrasp, you'll see that this also has a different style of highlighting. This is now purple, right? It's not blue anymore. It's purple, black, orange, green. So it's not some sort of standard thing that Java has set. Instead, it's something that each kind of IDE has unique to itself. So in this case, NetBeans will use blue to indicate certain things, black to indicate certain things, gray to indicate comments, right, and so on. So in our very first line of code, we're just going to simply write system.out.println, right? I don't know if I'm supposed to capitalize this. And we're going to say hello world. This is going to be the very first line. So I don't know if let me see if I have written this correctly. Oh, that's right. We need to start our main class. That is a very, very important step that we cannot miss. So you'll notice one thing that I just went ahead and did is I added this right here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this into chat so you guys can put this over into your code. It is not going to be spaced out correctly, I don't believe, because YouTube chat is not very user-friendly when it comes to that. So you're like, wait, what exactly happened here, right? Well, this is called a main method. And what a main method is essentially it means, okay, you created a class, right? Well, a class typically means that I'm going to be going ahead and, you know, putting some sort of data into a generalized object creation method, right? Well, in this case, we want to do something with this object that we've just created, with this class, right? So this is called the main method. And the main method is where you call all of your functions. In this case, our main method is simply going to be outputting hello world. We don't have any sort of data we want to store. We just want to print hello world. So we go ahead and we just put this main method. This main method is going to be, you're not going to ever change this. It's always going to be public static void main string bracket bracket args. It is always going to be that. And whatever's inside it, obviously, you can change, right? You can have multiple lines of prints. You can have only one line of print. And once you've done this, make sure you go ahead and you save your code. Control S will do that for you. And you're going to do your very first run. So you're going to go over to click Run, and you're going to want to click Run File. You can also use the alternative keybinds, Shift F6. I find no use in doing that, really. I mean, there's no point. And you can go ahead and press run file. And you'll see all of these fancy things going on here. The only thing you're looking for is after exec, meaning execute, hello world. That's what you're looking for. And if you just want to check that that is indeed what comes out, you can go ahead and just play around with whatever you want to print out here, and you'll see that it prints out the exact same thing. At this point, if it is printing out exactly what you want, this means that you have successfully completed the first part of this course, meaning downloading Java, all of its basic packages, and the IDE. At this point, you are fully ready to program, and all we need to do is learn a couple of things before we can go ahead and start tackling some problems of our own. So you say println makes a new line while print just prints, right? So that is entirely true, as a matter of fact. So println, as someone who used to program in Java a lot, println is the way you pronounce that. And obviously when it has line in it versus just regular print, it is going to be creating a new line. You will notice that if I go ahead and I were to print using println hello world, or hello, and then in my second one I were to print out world, right, both with line in them, you can see that they will be printing on different lines. But if I were to go ahead and remove, oops, I ran the wrong thing. Let's not build that. Alright. You will see that it now prints onto one line because I no longer have a print ln, right? ln essentially just means -n, and -n just means new line. Nothing really fancy going on there. So that observation is correct. Most of the time when we go ahead and we debug anything, when we want to print anything, you will be using println, simply because making a new line is just a lot more neat than having everything on the same line, and there's rarely a use for you to print something on the same line, unless you're trying to format something in your command box. So if you have any questions up to this point, please ask. If not, then that means that we can move on. So it says no main classes found. So no main class found. That's very, very interesting. So you need to make sure that wherever you write your code, it has to be inside the class that is over here. So not up here. It should be inside these two brackets here. So if I were to delete everything inside here, all the code you write has to be inside these two brackets. So in this case, I were to do that, and then you're going to want to do this. Right, and you have to format it almost exactly the way I format it, simply because I don't think the YouTube chat properly formats this kind of stuff, so it kind of creates new problems. Okay, so Grape, I see that your NetBeans finally got installed. Okay, Andrew, hold on for a second. I'm going to go ahead and run through the creation of a new project again. Why don't we go ahead and go through this step again and see if you accidentally did anything incorrectly. Alright, so when creating a new project, you're going to want to click on File, right? New Project is what you're going to be hovering over. You click on that. All your options should be your very first ones. Java with Maven, and Java application. Once you've done this, you want to click Next, and you will name your project. So this is going to be called, say, test project. You can name it whatever. It does not matter. It just has to be something that makes sense, right? You can't name it like snake, I don't know, snake soccer ball, right? It has to be something relevant, right? Like first project, test project, something like that. Next thing you're going to want to do is just click a finish. Everything over here, it's basically set for you. There's no reason for you to really change it. So you say it says finding feature, not naming. So I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that, because once you finish this, it's only a two-step process, going through new project and clicking on these two, then next, then naming it. If possible, could you email me through the Capital Robotics Club email a screenshot of what you're seeing, and I can help you with that. So Chris, Gia, and Andrew, I'm going to go ahead and help you guys with your problem right now. So you guys are saying that no main class found is the error. Can one of you guys just go ahead and paste the error into the chat so I can go ahead and have a closer look at it? Right, so make sure that what you do is you go ahead and you right click on this com.mycompany.whatever, right? And you want to right click new and then click on new Java class. And then once you've clicked on a new Java class, you want to open up test class right here. You have all this stuff right here, and you want to paste in this part. It should look like this when you create it, and after pasting it in, it should look like that. Okay. Okay, good job, Grape. So hopefully you've been able to create your first class. So Andrew, so you say when I tried to test run, it says could not find tests for selected files, skipping execution, and no main classes found. So no main class found is a very odd error, as your main class, this right here, has to match your file name. That's one of the main rules in Java. And if this matches this name, then that indicates this as the main class. Okay, you got it? All right. Yes, so just remember that a lot of the things, if you were to go ahead and change it, some of them have hidden kind of meanings behind it. So it's not too good to change certain things. So Andrew, if you could kind of like give like a brief explanation to how you solved your problem to Chris, that would be great as well. So hopefully it was just a small error or something. I'm not too sure about the error you're getting at the moment. Yeah. That's kind of the only thing I could kind of see not working out if you were to go ahead and do this. So Java is a language. You remade the test class. All right. Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and try that? It likely has something to do, because it's a very specific format you have to follow. You have to right click on this, create this Java class. You cannot create anything else here. because it requires a different formatting. You have to create a new Java class, and it will open up a blank file, right? If I were to make another class, say test class 2, right? It will look like this, and you have to make sure you don't change this at all, right? You also cannot change this, and you want to go ahead and just copy this and paste this in, right? And then in order to run it, make sure that you press run file, not test file, not this, run file, and it will go ahead and run it for you, and it should say that hello world. Other than that, I think there shouldn't be anything else. Yeah. Yes, I cannot identify any other common issues. So now that we've kind of got NetBeans installed and that kind of stuff, if you guys have any questions, please email me, because that's the only way I can see kind of the pictures of the actual errors you guys get. But other than that, this is kind of the best guide I can give at the moment. I can give you guys specific tips if you guys have any problems you need solving. Now, I'm going to give you guys a very brief overview of how Java works. So Java is a language that companies use. I'm talking about professional companies, not just, like play around ones, like big ones, right? What this means is that it has to be a structured language. Structured meaning that if I were to look over your code, I would know exactly what's going on because it has to follow a certain format. The certain format that the Java code follows is it has to have brackets indicating the beginning and closing of classes, functions, methods, right? For loops, if statements, everything that can have anything more than one line in between it, right? So, a lot of these kind of concepts might sound foreign to you right now, but essentially, a lot of the errors you will get is because, you're writing the code, you miss a semicolon, right? You're writing the code, you miss a bracket. The reason why IDEs like this are helpful is, if you're to hover over this bracket, you can see this is the ending bracket. So this is the brackets that the code kind of relates to each other. So say if this bracket was highlighted and then say this bracket was highlighted, right? Well, this one now becomes red. It doesn't have someone to highlight. So it says there's an error. And now once we add it back, the error is fixed. It is very important that you make sure that you understand this. Unlike Python, if you guys attended the classes before, Python is a much looser language of this. There are no semicolons, there are no brackets. Although it is a little bit stricter on indentation. I believe in Java you can just make everything like this. And as long as you have brackets, everything is fine, I believe. Yeah, so you can see it still prints it out. This does not look good, not pleasing to the eye. So I highly suggest you still follow the indentation pattern. So we're nearing our closing minutes, so I would just like to say if any of you have any questions, feel free to ask them. This class was used as a setup class. So in this class, we were able to install Java, JDK, and NetBeans, and hopefully you guys were able to go ahead and run your very first test hello world here, right? You can play around with this piece of code in here, like Googling short samples and just pasting it into here. But for now, this is how far we're going to go. In the next class, we are going to be delving into some of the basic Java syntaxes as well as some of the behind the scenes in order to understand exactly how Java works. So once again, if any of you have any questions, feel free to ask them. If not, thank you everyone for watching today's class, and we will pick off right where we left next class, which is going to be next Friday at 8 p.m. So thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you guys next class. All right. Um, so Andrew, it wasn't working before, but you made another one and typed in the same way. Yeah. So it was probably just something. Maybe you like accidentally did something. You know, these small things. There's nothing you can really do about them. And I don't think I can disclose that on this learning channel right here. But thank you for watching, and I will see you next week. Thank you.